Welcome to Movie Light. The film revolves around an AI robot known as Daryl, which stands for Data Analyzing Robot Youth Life Form. Daryl is an artificial intelligence experiment conducted by Tascom, a government organization. Despite his outward appearance of an ordinary 10-year-old boy, Daryl's brain functions as an advanced microcomputer with remarkable features. These include extraordinary reflexes, exceptional multitasking skills, and a capability to infiltrate and manipulate other computer systems. The military financed the Daryl project, aiming to develop a superior soldier one day. Dr. Mulligan, one of the scientists involved in the project, becomes apprehensive about the use of Daryl for unethical purposes, so he decides to liberate him. As he runs away with Daryl, the Tascom chase them on a helicopter. The scientist tries to shake off the chopper, but without success. Left with no choice, he stops the car and releases Daryl in a mountainous forest located in South Carolina. He then attempts to evade the helicopter himself, but the pursuit ends in Dr. Mulligan driving his vehicle off a cliff, resulting in his unfortunate demise. Meanwhile, Daryl is discovered by an elderly couple, and they bring him to an orphanage in the fictional town of Barkington, South Carolina. He goes through several medical tests, and it's revealed that he's suffering from amnesia and has no recollection of his true identity. Eventually, he finds himself placed in the care of Joyce and her husband, Andy Richardson, as foster parents. It turns out the couple can't have biological children, so they want to adopt a child. However, for them to get permission, they have to foster a child first. The couple are happy to have Daryl, but they soon notice that his social skills are somewhat limited. Says he's sexy, but Turtle says it's because he has the biggest Daryl. Therefore, they introduce them to their neighboring Fox family, including Howie, Elaine, their daughter Sherry, and naughty son Turtle. In the next scene, Turtle befriends Daryl, and they hang out by the lake. The former expresses amusement that Daryl can remember certain things like his name and reading skills, while having no recollection of anything else about himself. Daryl explains that he's been diagnosed with amnesia. He hopes that one day his biological parents may eventually come to claim him. Turtle then takes him home, and they play a game called Pole Position on Sherry's computer. Daryl becomes fascinated with the game, and he performs at a speed and level beyond human capability, much to everyone's astonishment. He also begins to observe human behaviors and habits, and he can't seem to comprehend why Turtle constantly teases his sister. The next day, Daryl goes to school for the first time and manages to impress the teacher with his exceptional academic abilities. Later, Andy teaches him baseball. "Oh, my fault. But Daryl stuns him with his inborn baseball skills. This makes Andy happy, and as he can finally envision his baseball team defeating his rival Bull Mackenzie's Team Warriors at baseball, he makes Daryl promise not to tell anyone about his great baseball skills, worried that Warrior coach Bull Mackenzie would try to find a way to stop him from playing. However, keeping secrets is a foreign concept to the child robot, so he quickly goes to tell his foster mother about his game. Daryl also begins to learn about male attraction toward females, although he can't make sense of it. He believes that all knowledge is learning and therefore good. One day, Andy goes to the ATM with Daryl to withdraw money, but the machine shows insufficient funds because of a malfunction in the bank computer. Daryl then takes the matter into his own hands and corrects the error. He also manipulates the computer into showing $1.4 million in Andy's account without the latter's knowledge. Afterwards, Daryl and Andy go to school to warm up for the baseball game. At home, Joyce is talking with her friends, and she admits feeling unwanted as a mother because Daryl is such a perfect kid. He does all his chores by himself. He irons his own clothes, makes his own bed, and polishes his own shoes. She says he's a better mom than she is. Turtle overhears the conversation, and later he's driven to school by Joyce and his mother. The baseball game starts between Andy's team and their rivals, the Warriors led by Bull Mackenzie. The Mohawks trail behind in the beginning until Daryl takes charge and quickly turns the game around. Everyone's happy with his performance, but this makes Joyce feel more unwanted. During the break, Daryl picks up on it and talks to Turtle about it. The latter explains that adult humans are complicated, says that they like to feel like they're making progress with you. Therefore, you have to make mistakes sometimes so the adults feel like you're learning something. Turtle advises Daryl to leave his room messy sometimes so that Joyce can clean up after him. After the break, the game continues, and Daryl deliberately gets himself out by missing all 3 strikes. Turtle is stunned, and he tells him that he doesn't have to blow the whole game. However, Daryl tells him that the game is not more important than Joyce. He also talks rudely to Andy, saying he doesn't care about the game anymore. Joyce watches it transpire and she is stunned by his behavior. However, she goes over to talk to him and nicely explains that it's okay to mess up, but he shouldn't talk to his loved ones like that. Hearing this, Daryl finally realizes the mistake and the two embrace. Meanwhile, Turtle steps up and takes the role of the cleanup hitter in place of Daryl. To everyone's surprise, he successfully hits a home run and clinches victory for his team, much to everyone's joy. Before moving forward, please subscribe to Movie Light. Let's back to the movie. However, just as the Richardsons establish a genuine connection with Daryl and experience a newfound sense of happiness, their joy is abruptly shattered when one day a social worker arrives and claims that the government has found Daryl's biological parents. They are disheartened, but they decide to cooperate and allow Daryl to reunite with his parents. It's evident that the robot boy has become attached to Joyce and Andy, and he insists on living with them for the rest of his life. However, Andy tells him that he must go with his real parents, as they miss him and they've been looking for him for months. The next morning, Daryl's parents Ellen and Jeffrey arrive to take him home. Turtle is so distraught about the situation that he can't bring himself to bid Daryl farewell personally. After a while, the parents drive him straight to an airport and they board a private jet to fly back home. However, it's then revealed that Ellen and Jeffrey are actually Tascam scientists posing as their girl's parents to take him back to the research facility in Washington. On the plane, Daryl entertains himself by talking to the pilot while Jeffrey discusses his escape. Dr. Jeffrey says that Dr. Mulligan kidnapping Daryl was the best thing he could have done, as it helped Tascam test Daryl in the real world with real people at the facility. Daryl's memory is restored, and he undergoes a debriefing regarding the valuable lessons he learned during his time with the Richardsons. The debriefing highlights significant moments, such as his deliberate decision to strike out during the baseball game, demonstrating his understanding that sometimes sacrificing one thing can lead to gaining something else in return. Additionally, Daryl's subjective preference for chocolate-flavored ice cream over vanilla-flavored ice cream is noted. The revelation astounds Jeffrey, as this makes him believe that Daryl is capable of having human emotions. However, Ellen is still not convinced, so Jeffrey decides to run some biochemical tests. They put him in a room full of doctors and begin the test, but Daryl says he's scared, an emotion that a robot can't feel. In the next scene, Dr. Jeffrey reports the findings to the military generals in the Pentagon. The revelation of Daryl's capacity for human emotions, including fear, leads the military to deem the Daryl experiment a failure. This surprises Dr. Jeffrey, as he believes that because of Dr. Mulligan's actions, they know a lot more about Daryl than they did before. However, the generals believe that a robot like Daryl is useless to the army, and they decide to terminate the project. The army also orders Dr. Jeffrey to build an adult version of Daryl that is programmed to learn everything that the army teaches. A fearless, technically skilled, devastating soldier. Dr. Jeffrey then goes to deliver the bad news to Daryl, but after having worked on him for so long, he has grown attached to him. He doesn't have the courage to tell him that he's going to be terminated. Daryl then uses the opportunity to request Dr. Jeffrey to let the Richardsons and his friend Turtle visit him. Surprisingly, Dr. Jeffrey agrees, as he feels that they deserve to meet him one last time before he is dismantled. Soon Joyce, Andy, Turtle, and his father arrive at Tascam. Dr. Jeffrey welcomes them to the facility and tells them the truth about Daryl, much to their astonishment. They find it hard to believe, but when Dr. Jeffrey showcases some of Daryl's ultra-human features, they are left stunned. Dr. Jeffrey further explains that the doctors at the government orphanage couldn't tell that Daryl was a robot because the robotic part of him is only contained in his skull. Daryl then finally reunites with his family and warmly embraces them. This moves Dr. Jeffrey so much that he makes the tough decision to free him forever. After sending the family back home, Dr. Jeffrey hatches a plan to smuggle Daryl out of the facility. However, Dr. Ellen learns about his plans and alerts the military chief. The latter quickly arrives at the hospital and orders Dr. Jeffrey to destroy Daryl. With Dr. Ellen left with no choice, the poor scientist obliges. Afterwards, the army chief ensures that Daryl has been terminated while Dr. Jeffrey angrily leaves the facility. But in a drastic turn of events, it turns out that the robot boy is still alive. Dr. Jeffrey somehow convinced Dr. Ellen to spare Daryl's life, and he smuggled him out of the facility. However, the doctor's plan is soon exposed, and an intense car chase follows. They manage to shake off the police cars, but when Dr. Jeffrey sustains a fatal gunshot wound, Daryl breaks into tears as Dr. Jeffrey dies in his arms. At this point, he started acting like an actual human. In the next scene, Daryl makes his way to a military airport and manages to steal a fighter jet. When he flies towards his home near the US border, the military threatens to blow him up midair if he doesn't land within 5 minutes. Your aircraft will be destroyed if you do not turn around before that time. However, Daryl refuses to budge, and just before the end of the countdown, he ejects from the plane with a parachute and lands near the lake from earlier in the movie. Unfortunately, he ends up falling into the lake and drowning as he doesn't know how to swim. It appears as if all hope is lost, and our protagonist is going to die, but right then, Turtle heroically shows up and pulls his friend out of the lake. Daryl is then rushed to the hospital, but sadly the doctors declared Daryl dead. This devastates Turtle, and he breaks down in tears. However, he refuses to believe that Daryl can die because he's a robot. Oxygen feeds one's brain, and Daryl's brain is a microcomputer which can't die. When you die, it means brain death, Turtle says. Turtle is right, and the Richardsons covertly seek Dr. Ellen's life to bring Daryl back to life. In the end, the robot boy finally reunites with his family and happily embraces them. Thank you. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe Movie Light for more amazing videos like that.